Hello and welcome to Twisted Britain, a podcast on true crime in Britain with a sprinkling of the weird and the macabre. And your hosts are me, Bob Dale.
And me, Nadine Royal. We're a couple of friends who met in the pub and developed a friendship based on our mutual love of booze, podcasts and pub quizzes. We met in the Settle Inn in Stirling, and that's where we record.
Each week we'll both tell a story of something twisted, one long one and one short one, and we'll decide who goes first.
Based on the flip of a coin.
But before we flip the coin...
Little bit of chat.
Little bit of chat. We'll always do it, why not? Well, you're excited today because you're away on holiday tomorrow.
I'm very excited. Off to Krakow, Poland. Very excited.
Yeah, very excited. Big royal family holiday.
Going for Big Daddy-O Royal's 60th, so that should be good. I've been before. I love it.
Happy birthday, Papa Royal.
Happy birthday for Friday. Big 6-0.
That'll be good. Poland's great.
Poland is great. It's going to be really cold, so I bought a massive parka, so now I've got a jacket that rivals how big yours are.
Yeah, I like that you got a big jacket.
How are you this week? Are you alright?
Yeah, just this is what, second week back at work after what feels like the longest Christmas break ever. In fact, we've not recorded in like a month, I don't think.
It's been ages. Was the last one we recorded the Christmas one?
Yeah, it will have been.
So that was like I think it was like the 18th of December or something, 21st
Yeah, so it's
December.
nearly a month ago, so I almost forgot how to do all this. So yeah, this is good. It's nice.
Happy New Year!
Yeah, Happy New Year, everyone. It's nice to be back. We've had some really good listening figures since we put up the... Sorry for the little break in the middle. That was entirely my own fault. We're going to call it technical, but I messed up. But we've had some good listening figures since we came back, so that's always nice.
Nice interaction online across the social media. It's been nice.
Thanks everybody for that. We'll plug them all at the end.
Yep, as always.
That's the easy way to get out of all of this. We were chatting on Sunday and neither of us had pretty much any idea what we were going to do. Did you find a story?
Yes, I did. Did you?
Yeah, I did. I actually found two and I went with the second one.
La-da-da.
I know. I went with the second one for a reason, but the first one I did we'll cover later on in the year.
Sweet.
And actually, the second one I found, I think I like it better than the first one I found.
Well, that's a nice turnout then.
Yeah, I didn't mind kind of going... Well, I messaged you earlier on going, oh, shit,
I need to find a new one.
I need to find a new one. And actually, the one I've written about, it's a really cool story.
Nice.
What about you?
Well, I've taken inspiration from me going on holiday tomorrow.
So you've just done a Polish crime story. Is that what you've done?
This is not a Christmas repeat, I promise. It is still British. But you'll see when we get there.
Okay, cool.
What I'm saying.
Well, with no further ado,
flip it. What kind of coin is it this week? We've
gone with a pound coin.
Upmarket.
Might not be. Brexit soon.
Don't bring it up. Oh, I didn't call it. This has been so long. Heads, you go.
Tails it is. You're up. You're on short story this week.
I'm on short story. So I've covered the Glasgow airport terror attack.
Oh, very good.
Because the one thing with me going on holiday, as excited as I am, is I fucking hate flying.
John Smeaton, was it? Yeah.
Don't skip ahead. That's exactly why I'm covering it, really, because he's a fucking legend.
Yeah, indeed.
But no, I hate flying so much. So on the run up to a holiday, the days before it, I start already thinking about gotta go to the airport, gotta be nervous in the airport, get a bit drunk in the airport, get on the plane, everything will be fine, but...
There's not many places you don't get a bit drunk at, though, so that's not much different.
True. So I was thinking about airports a lot, and then I was like, I should cover that.
What better one, indeed. Yep. No, I like it. Go for it.
So the 2007 Glasgow airport attack was a terrorist ramming attack which occurred on the 30th of June 2007, obviously, at 11 minutes past 3 in the afternoon. A dark green Jeep Cherokee loaded with propane canisters was driven at the glass doors of the Glasgow airport terminal and set ablaze.
I can't believe that's 11 years ago.
Mad, huh? Yeah. I remember it on the news and everything.
I remember it clear as day, yeah, absolutely. Because nothing as mad as that ever happens, 30 miles from us.
Well, exactly. And next fact, actually, the next sentence, it was the first terrorist attack to take place in Scotland since the Lockerbie bombing back in 1988.
Which is 30 years ago now. Yeah. We just, I was doing some work helping out with some of the filming for that recently. Nice. Really horrible time.
Oh, yeah. So, that was, 30 years ago, last year, Lockerbie. So, 2007 was when the Glasgow terror attack happened. The attack took place 3 days after the appointment of Scottish MP Gordon Brown as Prime Minister, if you remember. But Downing Street dismissed suggestions that there was a connection between the two circumstances, which, fair enough, I think.
It was probably too soon a time between him becoming prime minister. There would have been planning involved.
Yeah, it was like 3 days before that he became it. A close link was quickly established to the 2007 London car bombs, though, which had happened the previous day.
Right, okay.
So they thought they were all tied in, but I'll get back to that. Although the doors were damaged, security bollards outside the entrance stopped the car from entering the terminal, where there were 4,000 people inside. So there was the potential for many fatalities.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And like total carnage, but because of the bollards outside, we're cool. Like it was like all
a concrete bollard that stopped you.
Done. I looked at photos because I couldn't really remember the visuals from it. I looked at photos earlier from it, and like the front of the building was like scorched from where the car had been on fire, but it was mostly cosmetic damage.
Yeah, and you can't get anywhere near that bit anymore.
No. So the car's driver was severely burnt in the ensuing fire, and 5 members of the public were injured, though none of them were like seriously injured.
Yeah.
Some injuries were sustained by those assisting the police in detaining the occupants, but again, not anything like serious. Both of the car's occupants were apprehended at the scene, and all of those injured were taken to the Royal Alexandra Hospital in nearby Paisley. Within 3 days, Scotland Yard had confirmed that 8 people had been taken into custody in connection with this incident and the one in London. The BBC reported that 8 people were being questioned, most of whom had worked for the NHS and 5 of whom were doctors.
That's scary, isn't it? Yeah.
The police said that they believe the attack was linked to the 2007 London car bombs, which happened 36 hours before. The vehicle was reported to have contained 60 litres of petrol, gas cylinders and nails. This is the one in London. Scotland Yard reported that while the gas contained in the canisters and the quantity of the canisters remains unknown, further details would be given after they were analysed by forensic experts. The head of Scotland Yard's counter-terrorism command said, "It is obvious that if the device had detonated, there could have been serious injury or loss of life."
Oh yeah, if it had gone off, like say you can't get near that bit anymore, but it is still the front door of the airport.
Oh yeah. There's still people outside, the smoking bit's right there.
Yeah, I mean, like now you can't get there, but like at the time, you could drop people off outside that door. So it would have been carnage.
Yeah.
Absolute
Yeah,
carnage.
total mayhem. And especially if it had gone into the terminal through the glass doors that they were aiming at.
I wasn't even thinking about that, but yeah,
4,000 people inside in an enclosed space.
Yeah.
Fucked.
It's not the biggest departure hall.
Not really, is it? Not really. So according to Sky News, the gas cylinders contain propane used for patio heaters. A second bomb was later found in a blue Mercedes-Benz 280E, believed to have been left in the same area around the same time. The illegally parked car received a parking ticket in Cockspur Street, which is just around the corner from Trafalgar Square. So this is like the London ones the day before. It's like literally just around the corner from Trafalgar Square where this car was. It was given a parking ticket there at 2:30, and at about 3:30 the car was transported to the Park Lane car pound. Staff there left it in a public area after smelling petrol fumes coming from it, and they alerted the police. And especially, I think they alerted the police after hearing about the first bomb going off in London. They immediately phoned the police. They're like, "We've got a weird car in our compound.
There's an abandoned car here. You need to do something about it." Yeah.
So back to the Glasgow bombers. The police identified the 2 men as Bilal Abdullah, who is a British-born Muslim doctor of Iraqi descent. So what I read as well was that he was born in Britain, and then as a child he was moved back to Iraq, and then he came back again.
Okay.
And he was a doctor for the NHS. And he worked at the Royal Alexandra Hospital in Paisley, the very one that they were then taken to be treated.
That's just nuts, isn't it?
Weird. Did
it say he studied in the UK to be a doctor?
I don't know if he studied in the UK, but I know that he was born here, went back to Iraq as a child with his family, and then at some point came back again.
Okay.
I'm not sure. The second guy was called Kafil Ahmed, also known as Khalid Ahmed, who was an engineer and the driver of the Jeep Cherokee. He was doing a PhD.
Cherokee.
Sorry.
That's right.
I'm going to continue saying Cherokee because I think it sounds funner.
It's going to annoy me, but carry on.
He was studying a PhD in engineering, actually. So both very clever guys.
Incredibly, yeah.
Yeah. He was treated for fatal burns at the same hospital at the Royal Alexandra where Abdullah worked, and they all got sent to all the victims.
Went to, yeah.
The newspaper The Australian alleged that a suicide note indicated that the 2 had intended to die in the attack, but I couldn't really find all that much more apart from that one kind of reference.
Yeah, would you find a
suicide note? Probably not.
Note in a burning vehicle?
Meh. Probably not. Kafil Ahmed died from his injuries on the 2nd of August. So he was the driver who had, I think it was 90% burns to his body. Yeah, fuck you. So, like, yeah, not bothered. Bilal Abdullah was later found guilty of conspiracy to commit murder and was sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum of 32 years.
Yeah, he's not getting out.
Yeah, he's fucked.
Yeah.
So, this is it. This is the real reason.
Get onto it, yeah.
Smeaton.
John Smeaton.
John Smeaton.
I knew a man growing up called John Smeaton.
Did you?
It's not the same guy. I'll tell you later on how I knew him. But
Excellent. So John Smeaton, a bag handler, was off duty when he saw the incident start to develop. He heard 3 explosions as he smoked a cigarette during his break. I was going to
say, he was out having a fag, watching, wasn't he? Yeah.
So he's outside having a fag. He ran over to help the police, and Smeaton aimed a kick. I wrote down the testes, but I'm not going to be that fancy. Smeaton went over and just booted this fucking Kafil Ahmed straight in the balls.
Well, not just that, he kicked a flaming man.
He was on fire.
He kicked a flaming man in the balls. I got a lot of respect for that.
Yeah, so do I. That's the best part of this whole story. This fucking guy who was like, "Fuck this."
Yeah, not at my airport. Not thank you.
So he kicked Kafil Ahmed straight in the balls, and that was it's 90% burns that Kafil Ahmed suffered, who then later died from his injuries.
He died from the kick in the balls. That's how I'm seeing it.
So during the incident, Smeaton also helped drag a guy called Michael Kerr to safety, who was lying next to the Jeep with a broken leg. So I think he must have been hit by the Jeep or suffered some kind of collision from what had gone on. And he had a broken leg and was lying by this burning vehicle. So after running up, booting this guy in the balls, he then saw him and was like, "I'll drag you to safety, mate. Don't worry."
I've got this picture of him still with his fag hanging out his mouth while he's doing it. I'm not putting this out. Yeah, no, this is my break. I'm not putting this out.
So good. I don't know if I've made this up. I should have fact checked it, but I'm so sure that he broke his foot or something. Or that
yeah, no,
he did, right? He broke his foot from kicking this guy in the balls so fucking hard. The incident has been described as inspiring two others to take personal initiative and act decisively in a crisis. So not long after, there was a newsagent and a former policeman, Mohammed Afsa, who cited Smeaton as an inspiration for facing down and repelling a would-be armed robber at his shop. And he was like, it's because of John Smeaton, guys like that have inspired me to stick up for myself and not fucking take no shit. So he's this total people's hero. In late July, Smeaton returned to his old job as a baggage handler at the airport, so a month later. And then later in the year, he then accepted a job as head of security at a nearby company.
Good.
Smeaton.
Yeah, good lad.
He was then also awarded the Queen's Gallantry Medal,
yep.
Which was presented to him by the Queen at a ceremony at Buckingham Palace on the 4th of March 2008. So the next year.
A lot of these ceremmies, it's not the actual Queen.
Nah.
It's a member of the royal family.
Princess Anne or something.
Don't roll your eyes and say Princess Anne.
She's not as good as the Queen, though, is she?
She's not top trumps.
She's not the Queen.
No, absolutely.
But yeah, he got the Gallantry Medal, and it was awarded by the Queen, Buckingham Palace, the next year. In July 2010, it was announced that 7 others would also be awarded the Queen's Commendation for bravery for their parts in combating the threat that day. There was other people that were arrested, so I said there was 8 people arrested. Yeah. They were all released without charge, apart from... Oh no, this guy was, but out of the ones that I read about, this guy was the most interesting out of the other 6 that were arrested in connection to all the bombings. He was a 27-year-old doctor from India called Mohammed Hanif, and he was arrested at Brisbane Airport in Australia on the 2nd of July in connection with the bombings in the UK. He was arrested while trying to board a flight with a one-way ticket to Bangalore, India, and apparently he was going back to visit his newly born daughter. The arrest followed information that was received from the UK, but unfortunately the case against him collapsed later on and he was released without charge. And that was true for the other ones as well. So there was the 2 guys at the Glasgow airport. Yeah. One went to prison for life with a minimum of 32 years. The other one died from his injuries. This guy. And then there was 5 others.
Good maths. Well done.
I had to look at my hands.
You did literally just count that on your fingers. 5
others. But they were all released really quickly. So I didn't really write them down because it wasn't that interesting, to be honest. Just various people, 2 of them, there was a husband and wife who were arrested crossing, like I think they were on like a footpath crossing a motorway or something, and they were arrested because they thought they were involved, but they weren't, and everyone was released. So nobody, apart from this one guy that went to prison and the guy that died, nobody has done time for the London car bombings, as far as the update I looked at was.
Well, yeah, I mean, to be honest, I suppose if the folk that were conspiring to do it were all in the bombs. Well, I don't know, I'm completely speculating here, but if there's nobody left,
to do the time, but that's the thing, is like I think they were convinced that they were all part of, like, they were all being led by one person,
by a cell somewhere,
by a person, who like convinced them all to do this.
Because I suppose
things.
If the Glasgow guys if it had gone the way they planned, neither of them would have gone to jail either, because they'd have both been dead.
Oh, they'd be dead, yeah, they would have died. So after the incidents, Scottish First Minister Alex Salmond, along with the Cabinet Secretary for Justice Kenny MacAskill and the Lord Advocate Eilish Angelini, participated in the Cobra meeting chaired by Gordon Brown. So Cobra, for those of you that don't know, is the government's emergency committee. So when acts of terrorism and big things happen, like big emergencies, this like committee gets together. Salmon stated that the incident at Glasgow Airport today, as well as recent events in London, show that we face threats both north and south of the border, and both the Scottish and UK governments are united in our determination to stand up to that threat to protect our communities. Kenny MacAskill, the Cabinet Secretary for Justice, insisted that the recent terrorist attack on Glasgow Airport was committed by homegrown terrorists. Was not committed by homegrown terrorists. And Brown further addressed the issues by telling the media, "I know that the British people will stand together," and he thanked the emergency services and he urged the public to remain vigilant. So at 8:15 p.m, the same day on the 7th, when the terror attack went down, the Home Secretary Jackie Smith announced that the incident was being treated as a terrorist attack and that the United Kingdom terrorism threat level had been elevated from severe to critical, meaning further attacks are expected imminently. So it's quite scary. Yeah. And then on the 4th of July, a month later, the national status was then lowered from critical back to severe. But another fact that I stumbled across when I was looking into it was the day that it happened at Glasgow Airport, STV were due to be airing like a premiere about Die Hard 4.0 and they had to cancel it because they were like, oh, that's not cool.
We can't do airport stuff
And at
today.
the same time, ITV were meant to be airing Die Hard 2, which is about terrorists attacking an airport, and they had to change it and they put on Cliffhanger instead.
Cliffhanger's a great movie, though.
It's a good show.
I'm all right
if
with
you're going to replace it, you know.
I love Cliffhanger.
But they had to, like, everybody had to change all the plans on the telly because they were going to play all this stuff.
So, a couple of things I'd like to put in here. Mm-hmm. That is the most modern politics I've ever heard you talk about. Yeah. And it's 11 years old, so well done.
Thank you.
And did you find anything about the crowdfunding campaign they did for John Smeaton?
No, I don't think so.
So there was a crowdfunding campaign set up to buy him a pint.
Oh, yes. No, I think I did remember something about this.
I can't remember off the top of my head how much it was, but it raised thousands and thousands and thousands. And you went on and you basically donated like £3 or whatever it was to buy Smeaton a pint. And it raised thousands and thousands of pounds. I hope he got that money.
Oh, do you know what though? I think he probably would have given it to charity or something.
Possibly. I mean, he might be the second coming of Jesus, as far as I'm concerned.
I think that's what I heard too. That's just like typical. The best thing about it is that us Scots are always like really proud of how little shit we always take and stuff. Like, we're pretty outspoken people. We're quite bullshit about it. And that is just the epitome of it. Yeah, this guy's on a fucking fag break outside of the airport having a cigarette. He sees some car on fire crash into Glasgow Airport, into the bollards. Somebody's on the floor with their leg broken. There's a man on fire climbing out a car, running about wild, and his first thought is, I'm going to go and get involved and kick him right in the balls. So hard, I break my fucking foot.
Well, there was loads of like, I'm not going to say online memes because it was 2007, but there was loads of like bits and pieces that went around that don't fuck with Scotland, we'll kick you in the balls.
Yeah, it's like t-shirts and everything were made about it. Yeah. It's amazing.
Oh, he's a hero amongst men.
Thank you so much, Smeaton. We love you.
That was good. I'm amazed you did that. I'm gutted I didn't get to do it. No, good. You're going on an airplane, so you get away with it.
I get it. At least I'm going to Edinburgh Airport tomorrow, so...
Yeah, you can get right near the airport building then.
Yeah, so hopefully, somebody might come at me and I'll kick them right in the balls.
You'll run away, don't you?
No, we've had this conversation. I don't do fight or flight. I do spaghetti leg fall to the floor.
Yeah, that's true. You do.
So I'm fucked.
Just not even at that much of a threat.
No, not really.
Just fall.
Just come around the corner unexpectedly.
On the ground. That was good. I like that.
Thank you.
It's one of my favourite, kind of local-ish stories.
Well, I was trying to think about different crimes. Before I got to that and I went, that's what I'm going to do. I was trying to think of different types of crimes because we've done murder, we've done bit of stalking and stuff.
Yeah.
Because of Susie Lamplugh and we've done unsolved cases. I've done a robbery, assassinations. We've done loads of different types of crime, and I was trying desperately. I'm not going to say what crime I was going for because I almost found a good story out of it. But then I was thinking, and I was oh shit, terrorism. I've not done terrorism, and I was terrorism's so heavy though. And then that was kind of the lightest of them because nobody died apart from the fucking terrorists. So fuck you.
Diet terrorism.
Terrorism light with a TE though.
With a TE. Okay. And on that wonderful note, I'm going to go and top up my beer, and we'll be back in a minute.
Bye.
Do you remember hearing stories from your parents or grandparents about huddling around the old radio and listening to a radio drama?
And now, Mystery Theater, brought to you in part by True Value Hardware, your store of first choice. Come in.
Stories that not only could you see play out in your head, stories of love, mystery, and murder. Stories that would bring families together, even if for just one night. But it would be discussed until the next chapter was released. Or how about when your parents used to put you to bed early enough so they could sit down and enjoy the nightly news?
Good evening from CBS News. This is Newsbreak. Moments from now, President Reagan will speak to the nation and the Congress. The burden of the message: his health is much improved after the shooting a month ago, but the nation's economic health is not, and the country needs the economic program, which is the centerpiece of his administration.
These news broadcasts were televised with big names from back in the day, and even bigger stories of war, economic struggle, or economic bliss, and the topics would affect us all. Then there were the boomboxes back on every shoulder and Walkmans in every pocket, with headphones on so we can enjoy and share our favorite music of the day. Then there was Netflix, the next evolution of human entertainment platforms, who created the new verb binge, where you could get lost for hours watching through a season of a show and then find a new show to binge on. And finally, that brings us to the next big evolution of audio in the history of man. What if I told you there was one platform that not only covered all the genres and topics that the past has enjoyed on so many different platforms, from the old-time audio dramas to the most breaking news of today's era, from history long forgotten, health tips from experts, in-depth dives into crimes and murders, from hobbies of all kinds like video games and technology, to interviews with the professional athletes that you watch, all these can be unlocked to you, and for free, in the world of podcasting. Podcasts are not your grandparents' radio or your parents' nightly news anchor. They are the evolution of audio and the evolution of entertainment in our day and age. Podcast Junkie will be here to help guide you on finding the perfect ones for you. Coming soon to all platforms. Podcast Junkie will be a bite-sized podcast ranging from 4 minutes to a max of 15, giving you a quick overview of why I personally enjoy podcasts, and even a sneak peek of an episode or a trailer for the show we're talking about that week. So stay tuned, and in the coming weeks, we'll hope you let Podcast Junkie be the TV guide, so to speak, or better yet, the podcast guide to your next obsession. Podcast Junkie.
So that's us back. We've got fresh drinks.
Ready to go.
Both of us on beers this evening for
a
change.
change. I've been on the rum for a number of days. I just needed something different.
You're not going to specify that number, just a number. Okay.
Since I finished work on Friday.
This is Wednesday. Yeah, I had to think about that.
I took Saturday off, and so since Sunday, it's not too bad.
Yeah. Anyway, so this is the story of Noah Patrick Collins.
Not ringing any bells.
I would be surprised if it did. It's quite an obscure one, this, actually. Now, it's also called and I had to ask our good friend Colin how to say this because he's a Welshman and this is from Wales. Mm-hmm. A Welshman? Aye, fine.
Welshman's fine.
It's Aber-Tree-Dur. Aber-Tree-Dur.
Aber-Tree-Dur.
The Aber-Tree-Dur murder. And as he's given me extra information, I'll tell you.
Oh.
It means the mouth of 3 rivers.
Whoa.
That's all you get. So, Noah Collins was sentenced to death after being on trial in Glenmorgan. I got it so right until that point. We'll try again.
Good Welsh and then...
Thanks. Noah Collins was sentenced to death after being on trial in Glenmorgan. He would be hanged for the murder of Anita Dorothy Lawrence. Mm-hmm. So Neil Patrick Collins was born in Cadoxton in South Wales in 1883.
Not to be confused with Kazakhstan.
Not absolutely no, because that wouldn't be British. I would never do that. Both of his parents died when he was quite young, and he became the responsibility of the Cardiff workhouse, which, from what I understood, was what kind of happened to orphans at the time. They became part of the workhouse system.
Oh, right, so there's like labourers.
Yeah, but it's not the workhouse as you would picture it, like Victorian style.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, it's not like climb under that machine and fix that cotton wheel.
Yeah,
You're going to
get
get
under
dragged.
that
Yeah,
loom.
it's not quite as bad as that. There was a reform of the workhouses in the 1890s, so not long after he was born.
Right.
And actually, there was a schooling system involved in it and everything. So they were taught their 3 R's.
What does that mean?
The reading, the writing, and arithmetic. You never heard that? No. That's your standard schooling.
3 R's?
Yeah, reading, writing, arithmetic.
I've got so many issues with that.
Well, what? Because only one of them's an R.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the main problem with it. But anyway, he'd also been taught a skill at the school. Sorry, and males would have been taught things like shoemaking or carpentry or something like that, and women would have been taught dressmaking and seamstressy, and very stereotypical men and women's jobs. But at the time, they were given a skill to go out into the world with. These were all orphans, of course. Yeah. He was, by all intents and purposes, a very, very intelligent young man. Mm-hmm. Anyway, by the time he was age 14, he'd finished with school and was sent down the mines, which in South Wales, where most boys of his age would have ended up, especially in his kind of circumstance. He's not of a wealthy background at all. He worked in several pits in South Wales until he turned 18, when he joined the crew of a steamer going to Alexandria in Egypt. So he joined a steel ship, and as far as I could understand, he was just a kind of general worker on the steamship.
Pretty cool, though.
Yeah, he was paid off as soon as it was returned to Hull. Oh. I get the impression he wasn't very good, and you get that impression as we go on through his life a bit more. He wasn't the most particularly hard worker in life, even though he was quite intelligent. And as soon as he returned back into Hull, he was back down the pits again. He from there, it kind of skips on a wee bit, that he went to the States. Like, he must have boarded a ship to the States at some point, and I don't know whether he was a worker on the boat or he managed to get a third-class ticket or whatever, but he ended up working as a barman in a saloon in Boston in the 1890s, which is pretty rad.
It's pretty badass, yeah.
Yeah.
There's no settle in, but I bet it's pretty good.
No, but I imagine it's got those like swinging doors in the front of
proper.
it. As soon as you say saloon,
sliding glasses down the bar.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we try that in the settle, but it doesn't work.
One time Jock did wax the bar and it worked for like a day.
Did you try and slide down it on your belly though?
No, I did slide a lot of glasses down it though.
Smash right off the end. Yeah. He was working in the saloon in Boston, and he didn't stick that out either. It wasn't very long before he was back on a ship again, but this time to Cape Town in South Africa. Whilst in South Africa, he started work on the railroads. I haven't even had that much to drink tonight. In Kroonstad, Kroonstad.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
Kroonstad. And he was working on the railways. However, at this time, he was there in the kind of, like I said, 18... Well, what would he be 18? Just at the start of the 1900s. It was right in the middle of the Boer War, which was... and I've written it down here because I've just looked at your face and thought I'd better tell you. Basically, it was a war fought in South Africa that was fought between Britain and the self-governing Afrikaners tribal colonies in South Africa. Uh-huh. It was basically an independence
like a civil war.
No, not a civil war, because they weren't fighting each other. They were trying to rid South Africa of the Britons.
Right.
Or the British, sorry. At the outbreak of the war, Britain fully ruled South Africa. And they were fighting for their independence, essentially. So Collins signed up and joined the Light Imperial Infantry, and he saw action during the war, and for that he received the South Africa Medal, which was a campaign medal, and it was the only one I could see that he actually received, and campaign medals were handed out to cooks. Not that they don't deserve it, but you know, everybody that was part of the war
Right.
was given a campaign medal. So it's almost like a...
Just kind of like, thanks for taking part. Like when you finish a marathon, even if you didn't win it, here's a medal.
Whoa. Let's not go down there. Marathon's a hard thing to do.
That wasn't a slight.
The thing about his medal was he never actually received it until he was in jail later on, awaiting the trial for the murder. But I'll come back to that. Come back to that. So he served in the war right into the end of the war, and after it he returned to America and spent time in Boston, New York, and New Orleans looking for work where he didn't. He had a couple of bits and pieces here and there, but he didn't find any work as such, and returned back to Wales in kind of approximately 1906.
Mm-hmm. What kind of age would he be then?
So, born in 1883.
1906. Oh, I don't know.
22, 23?
Yep.
Something around about then. Oh, hang on. When back in Wales, he was greeted by a climate of very little prosperity. There was very little prospects for jobs or housing for him. So he ended up working back in the mines and lodging in the house of the Lawrence family. And at this point, he was 23 years old.
Nice.
So the Lawrence family were a family that lived in Aberfour Terrace in it's closed down. Abertradur. It was a new build house, quite nice, overlooking the river, but they didn't have the means to keep it themselves. Dad was a seaman and he was off to sea. Mum brought in lodgers to kind of help pay their way, and Anita Dorothy Lawrence, or Annie as she was well known, was a 19-year-old woman living in the family home.
So she was like a lodger?
She was the oldest daughter.
Oh, right, I see. Yep.
So she's the oldest daughter, helping her mother to keep the house. So she was she basically got up. She was living there with her brother, her two younger brothers, sorry. One of them who worked in the pit and the other one who was 2. Oh no, I've got that wrong, sorry. I've written it down as her brother, but I've just actually remembered when I was reading it earlier, it's not. It was her brother and a younger sister.
Right.
So her brother worked in the mines, and her younger sister, who was about 4 or 5 years younger than her, was still at home. So the lodgers were actually sharing a room with her brother, because the house wasn't massive, but they needed the income. And one of their lodgers was Noah Collins, and he worked in the same mine as the brother. Annie was a talkative, pleasant, well-liked young woman who was great help to her mother in the house, sung in the choir in the church. She was pretty much the opposite of what Collins was, especially after all of his failed attempts at work in America and everything. He was quite a down guy by this point. Collins, however, had fallen for the woman. Like, she, by all accounts, and I've said this time and time again...
Was she quite attractive for the time?
I'd not even say for the time. She's quite
attractive.
A 19-year-old attractive woman, and he's 23-year-old. The only thing that they knew about him, because he was quite quiet and and reserved, the only thing they knew about him was he had served in the military in South Africa and fought in the war. But other than that, they didn't know very much about him. Whereas she is the complete opposite of that. She was loved by people.
Right.
And, one of the things I read was that she hated it when friends went home. Like, so, you know, she'd be the person at a party that would be like, nah, don't go home yet. We need to, like, the party's still going, let's crack on. You know, she was very...
Literally me.
Yeah, except 19.
And attractive.
Oh, don't be like that. What she didn't know was that she'd kind of lit a fire in him, like of I wouldn't say love. It was very much lust,
right?
Because she'd given him a photograph of her, and I suppose in her defence, at that time, having a photograph of you would be quite a...
It's like that's your girlfriend, surely.
I wasn't thinking along that lines. I think it was probably like a novelty to her, and he'd been in the house for quite a while now.
Right.
Well, look, I've got a photo, and given him.
Yeah.
However, he became quite insanely jealous when he found out that she'd been given a photograph to somebody else as well.
Oh.
And I think it was another guy, but it wasn't her boyfriend or anything. She was just like,
yeah,
I've got photos.
Yeah.
He'd on several occasions approached her and asked her to be his sweetheart.
Cute.
And she had on every occasion turned him down. Not because there was another man in her life, but actually she just wasn't interested. She just wasn't interested in him at all. At one point she quite succinctly said to him, I don't want anything to do with you like that.
Fair.
He took this directly to heart, and it didn't go particularly well. Like he was kind of keeping all of this inside himself. Mm-hmm. So, on the morning of the 17th of August 1908, Annie had gotten up early to prepare food for her brother and Collins to take to the mine with them. Her brother had left before Collins had come down the stairs, because I presume he was on an earlier shift.
We just didn't like him to walk with him.
Didn't want. He was a weird guy. I'm not walking with you. So when Collins came down the stairs into the kitchen, he found Annie alone, and he asked her for a kiss, to which she said no, thinking he was joking.
Yeah, no, piss off, Collins.
Yeah, you look, you're not kissing me. This seemed to have been the one time too many.
The edge.
It was the straw that broke the camel's back, as such. He locked the kitchen door.
Oh, God.
And attacked her with 2 knives.
Oh, God.
Stabbing her up to 11 times, 7 of which were fatal wounds. And this is from the newspaper at the time. The neck was hacked in a ghastly fashion, the jugular vein being severed. In one of the 2 wounds in the breast, half the blade of one of the blades had been left.
Fuck.
Not satisfied with this, although each wound so far described was enough to cause death, Collins, with the other knife, stabbed the poor girl in the back. The knife penetrating the lungs, blood flowed freely from all of the wounds. And that was taken from not a rag newspaper at the time, like a decent newspaper. He must have gone mental to snap a blade.
It's a frenzy, isn't it?
It's an absolute frenzy.
That's disgusting. I thought, like, when you were ramping up to, like, this is it, like, she said no to the kiss and this is the one, I was, like, picturing, like, a more, I don't know the word is, for lack of a better word, like, classic. Like, just, like, a strangle or, like, hit her in the head or pushed her really hard or something. No, knife frenzy. Double knife frenzy. I
think this is, like, seen, just gone mental, seen the kind of bloodlust in his eyes and kind of...
Jesus. Left a blade in her tit.
Yeah, broke it off. So during the attack, Annie's mother had heard the screams coming from the kitchen and rushed downstairs. On finding the door locked, she'd barged it down.
Oh, yes.
And found her daughter lying in a pool of blood with the 2 knives in the pool of blood next to her, or the 1.5 knives that were left were lying next to her.
Jesus.
Collins had fled the scene, bandaging a cut in his hand that he'd sustained during the attack. He climbed the fence and ran. Annie's mother had pursued him out of the house and saw him heading for the railway station. She'd managed to attract the attention of a local guy and pleaded with him to get the police. However, when Collins arrived at the train station where he was aiming, he was spotted by a signalman who saw the bloodstained bandage and kind of accosted him. Mm-hmm. And Collins said to him directly, "Fetch the police when you like. I mean to give myself up."
Oh, okay.
So I've no idea why he ran.
Just panic, adrenaline.
Yeah. The signalman went and found one of the police officers that had been called, who were looking for him. And when they returned to the station, Collins was calmly smoking a cigarette and asked the policeman, "Is she dead?"
Oh my God.
The police officer noted the bloody bandages and advised him to say nothing unless he had to do so.
Oh.
Once in custody, Collins admitted that he had threatened her before, and he told her, "I will kill you if you don't get with me."
Oh my God.
When at the police station, he said, "It was because she refused to kiss me."
Oh.
At which point he was charged with her murder.
Well, good.
The trial, he stood there with his defence claiming insanity, but this was kind of quickly brushed aside by the prison's doctor. It seems to be like, I read all these things and it seems to
Every
be like
time.
a common, like, look, I'm just a bit mental.
I think, though, that's if you don't have any other alibi or, like, defence or anything, you've got nothing. It's like, you obviously did this, so the only thing you can go with is insanity, surely.
It's like the go-to plea with nothing else.
Yeah, like, if you don't have, like, a witness or something that could, like, cast doubt on whether or not you did it, that's all you've got is, yeah, I did it, but it's because I'm mental.
Now, when I was reading this earlier and I kind of put it together, I've put this in, but I don't know why this was part of his defence or whether it was just something he said in the court. But he claimed that him and Annie had been together for a while.
Right.
So I don't know whether in his head he thought that they were together and that was her turning him down was like a bad part of the relationship or something. I don't know whether it was like he just thought...
Maybe it was the photo thing. Maybe like when she gave him the photo, he was like, this is it, we're together.
I think a big part of it was... I'll get onto that in a second, but like I really do think a big part of that was... he, however, stood in the court, and now one of the best descriptions I've ever heard, not tall enough to do more than peer over the top of the stand.
Excellent.
Just a wee man like that.
Just makes me think of like a little boy.
What are they saying about me? What are they saying? And he stood there and he heard witness after witness describe how there had been no relationship between them and she'd never wanted one either. He did, however, in court, wear the medal.
Oh, the medal.
So we'll come back to the medal.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the South African campaign medal.
Yeah.
He hadn't been awarded it because he went straight back to America after the war had been ended. But he wrote to the Home Office to ask for his medal to be sent to him, which they can't turn him down because he was due it. Like he did serve in the war, and it was a campaign medal. So the Home Office sent it to him while he was in jail. And I've just written speculate here on my notes, but my theory is he wore that to show that he felt like he was something.
Yeah, no, I with you. Like, the minute you said that, I was like, oh, he's just put that on to be like, oh, see, like, look, I fought in the war and I'm a good person. And it's just like I don't know, some kind of, like, symbol of...
I'm good, honest.
Yeah,
look, I did something for my country. Whereas actually, I think it was probably just a job to him.
Mm.
Shortest jury I've ever found in any of the stories I've ever read.
Yeah.
It took the jury 7 minutes to find him guilty of murder.
That's probably as long as it took for them to walk out, sit down.
Yeah, open the door,
Yeah.
sit in the chair and go, are we all agreed here? Right, back in.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The judge and... So now, I've done a few of these historical cases, and I'd never come across this before. Maybe it's something I've just kind of missed in my readings, but the judge donned a tiny cap, like a tiny black cap, and it specifically says in the newspaper clippings I was reading, the judge put on his black cap and read, "The sentence of this court is that you suffer the death in the manner authorised by law. May the Lord have mercy on your soul."
That's a great line.
It is a great line.
That's the classic.
Well, it's my second favourite.
Yeah,
we'll
it's not hang until you're dead.
May you be hanged by the neck until dead.
Dead, yeah.
I was kind of hoping, like, I was read all this stuff all the way down it and loads of things going, say it. But he didn't.
I've never heard of that either, a little black cap.
Little black cap. I'm going to have a look into it again.
I'd like to see what the black cap looks like.
So there is a photo I found and I'll show you, and
Nice.
we'll put it up online after. Collins showed absolutely no reaction to this at all and was returned to his cell with the date of execution set as the 30th of December 1908. So there's bits and pieces I read. I've not written this down, but I'll kind of just summarise. There's bits and pieces that I said that he obviously did feel remorse once he was back at his cells. He spent a lot of time with the kind of jail chaplain or priest or whoever it was, kind of repenting's not the right word, weeping.
Yeah.
Like he realised he'd done wrong. But...
Or is it just because he got sentenced?
Well, there's that as well. That's a good point. Was it just the fact that he'd gone, I'm going to die?
I'm going to die now.
Yeah. And there was appeals made to the Home Office and it was turned down. But on the morning of the 30th of December, he went to the gallows at Cardiff Prison wearing both his South Africa medal and a locket containing her photo.
I think that's really crude to wear her photo around your neck when you're going to get hung.
I absolutely agree. I think he it was like, it seems to me that it was his most treasured possession at this point. Well, that and the medal. But I wouldn't have allowed it.
It's just distasteful as fuck, isn't it?
Yeah, it's horrible. He was hung at 8 a.m. in the morning on the 30th of December, and in a twist to my normal hangings that I talk about, the crowd on this was literally 5 people.
Oh, not the big hundreds.
Not the stadium full that I normally do. In fact, one source I read said that there was more men clearing the street of snow than there was people turned up to watch the hanging.
Oh, wow.
Good.
Yep.
He was buried in an unmarked grave.
Good. Fuck you.
Now, on the flip side of this, and actually made me smile a bit that I managed to find this, because you never ever find too much about the victims on these things. However, Annie's funeral her coffin was marched through crowded streets and covered in flowers. All the curtains in the local area were drawn, which seems to be a kind of traditional Welsh thing to do. And on her memorial stone, it says, "This monument was erected by public subscription in honour of memory of Annie Dorothy Lawrence, the beloved daughter of William and Alma Lawrence, who died 17th of August 1908, yielding up her life rather than her virtue.
Aww.
Aged 19 years. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God." Added point at the end there, her post-mortem showed that she died a virgin, so he never ever got what he wanted.
No, good.
Which I love, like, the actual memorial that it seems to me like that, because the way I read it now, I might be reading that wrong, but the erected by public subscription sounds to me like it wasn't the family that paid for it.
Yeah, it was like everybody else.
Everybody chipped in to pay for this thing. It's a big, beautiful thing with an angel on top of it. It's massive. I'll show you a picture. We'll put it up online with the engraving on it, and I love that line, yielding up her life rather than her virtue.
Yeah, that's a good line.
That's cool.
Fuck that guy.
Yeah, he was.
It's just.
I don't know, like, he has obviously fallen onto a hard time and been caught up in a whole load of things. I don't think he was a bad guy. Well, I do think he was a bad guy.
I think he was a knobhead.
I'm not going to defend him in any way, other than he didn't have the best of lives.
No.
But I don't think...
But it's just like, I think this is where, like, we'll come at it from different directions, because... I don't know how to put it without coming across like funny about it. Like, just because I'm a girl and you're a guy.
Yeah, fair enough.
Because it just, that to me is such like classic fucking wanky, misogynistic, "Oh, if you don't get with me, I'm going to kill you." It's so rapey. Like, he didn't rape her, he stabbed her to death instead.
No, he evidently didn't rape her, yeah.
But that's so fucking rapey and so controlling, to be like, "Oh, if you don't get with me, I'm going to stab you for it." And to be so obsessed with her that even though she says time and time again, "I'm not interested in you like that at all, leave me be," that he's then even turning around after she's dead like, "No, we were totally in a relationship." It's just so...
And I'm not defending...
egotistical, like, almost, like, to be like, "Oh, but of course, like, of course she actually, like, she might have been saying no, but she obviously didn't mean it, so I had to stab her to death."
Yeah, I'm absolutely not defending any of that. I'm not counterpointing what you're saying. What he did was a horrible crime, and it was in a moment of fury, I think. I think it's been built up over a long time of him being lost in something that's happened. Up until the point of lodging with them, he was just a guy trying to make a way in life, I think.
I suppose.
You know, not that I'm saying...
Though you don't know.
No, you don't know. And that what I've read to you is everything I know.
Yeah.
He went away and tried to find work, and he did the best, and he'd had a hard life and stuff like that. Absolutely not defending him.
Mm-mm.
He'll go
No,
on.
you're not.
He'll go on my list of bad bastards forever. I'm going to get a T-shirt with just bad bastards and a list of them. I'll need to grow a bit to get the full list on, I think, by the time we're finished. I just thought it was a really interesting story.
No, it is interesting,
because I didn't put together, like, that at that time period, the kind of turn of the 1900s, that kind of century, that people were just going to America to find a job, and then to South Africa to find a job, and then ended up back in the pits in Wales and stuff like that. It is nuts. And
off on a boat to Egypt,
just as you do, without thinking about it. But I suppose he didn't have anybody to keep him here for.
Yeah, his mum wasn't there to be like, "Oh no, like, don't go."
But I would like to define here that he is a bad bastard, and I'm not defending him. I just feel like there's not some sorry to be had for him, but it was just I just found it a very interesting story.
No, I think it's interesting as well, but it's just I don't know how to like put across what I'm feeling. It just like touches a nerve with me. I think stuff like that, just blatant. I keep going to say this word, and I'm like, I don't want to use that word because I don't think it's what I need. I keep going to say misogynistic, but I don't think it's misogynistic. I think it's just.
I think if it was now, it would be.
But I just think, that's the thing, is that I don't think it's any different. You know, like, it's just always this, like, it's not always necessarily men, but for the majority it is, like, men trying to, like, own a woman for the, like, lack of it. You know, like, he's like, oh, I fancy you, so that's that. Like,
yeah,
you know.
I suppose there is, but there's also the flip side of that at the same time, that he was living in a house where he was being catered for by two women.
Yeah, so.
And that, I would imagine, like, I don't know, but that was reasonably normal for the time.
Yeah.
And I don't think...
It's probably the most affection he'd ever been shown, to be honest, if he grew up in an orphanage.
Absolutely,
and
I
then
agree,
worked
yeah,
just, like,
absolutely.
a lot, like, with loads of men and stuff, and then finally lived in this nice home where she'd get up and make him breakfast and shit. I suppose that is quite affectionate, actually.
The house is still there, and it's a lovely house.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's a really lovely house. Do you know what he needed? He needed a swift kick in the balls.
Swift John Smeaton.
John Smeaton could have sorted him right out.
Right out. That would have ended it. Horrible, though. Horrible way to die for Annie, but...
Yeah, horrible, absolutely. And I can't imagine what her mother felt afterwards after seeing that.
Put that back on the list of ways I don't want to die. Knife frenzy. We already visited that when I did Paige Doherty.
I think I've run out of notepaper on the ways you don't want to die.
I don't want to die that way either.
Anyway, so that was...
It was good. I found it was interesting.
That was Twisted Britain for this week. Thank you very much, everybody, for listening.
Yep, you can find us across social media. If you want to reach out and get in touch, we're going to put a couple of photos up on Instagram just now.
Yeah, let's just do it now, yeah.
So you can find us on Instagram at
Twisted Britain.
Twitter at
Twisted Britain.
Facebook at
Twisted Britain.
We have a discussion group.
The Twisted Britain discussion group.
Which you find on Facebook.
You will. And actually, please do come along and join in. We are getting better at social media.
Yeah.
We had a long talk with our social media manager, Nadine.
Hey.
And we're going to get better at it.
Yeah. We're getting there.
Basically because we like talking to you.
Yeah,
more than
100%.
anything.
It's so nice when people get in contact. I love reading people's little comments and stuff. And we get really nice, like, private messages as well, often.
Yeah, did you see the new one the other day? I was responding to somebody.
No.
I'll show you.
Right.
If you do like what you have listened to, please do leave us a rating and a review on wherever you listen to your podcast.
It just it makes us more findable.
Yeah, it appeases our egos and makes other people find us. The more reviews we have, the higher up we go on charts and bits and pieces of that, and it means other people can listen to us. And
shout out to Poland this week. We were number 1 in the history charts in Poland.
We were number 1 in the history chart in Poland and number 8 in their society and culture chart.
Mental.
Which is nuts.
Thanks, Poland. Yeah. I'm coming to you tomorrow.
Yeah, maybe
no
that's
photos,
what it is. Thanks. Are you going to download loads of stuff while you're there? Is that what it is?
Yep. No photos, please.
And yeah, thanks very much for listening.
Thank you.
And we'll see you all again another time.
I promise we'll be back into the habit of doing this. It has been a festive month.
Yeah, and we'll not ramble as much next time.
Promise.
That was Nadine bashing her beer off the microphone, but what a wonderful way to finish. Good night.
Bye.